So who's a role model for what it means to be a full-hearted man in the 21st century? If you're like most of the young men that I asked this question to, you're having trouble coming up with somebody. And that's in fact one of the most disappointing parts of my job at Stony Brook University. In the past, some of the students came up with President Obama. Almost nobody ever mentioned their own fathers. And in the end, they couldn't think of somebody that was a healthy man. So there are issues with masculinity in our culture today, and it impacts student success. Like many of you, probably all of you, our academic success team has been looking at issues that impact our four-year graduation rate, our first-year retention rate. Some of my colleagues on the team are here with us today. We've analyzed all of the data. We've taken apart the numbers to better understand who's graduating, when they're graduating, and who isn't graduating on time. Although Stony Brook enrolls more men than women, the men aren't graduating. So if you look at our four-year graduation rate, there's a 17 percentage point gap with men graduating at a lower rate than women. And this is actually symptomatic of a national picture where for every 4 women who graduate, only 3 men graduate. So we wanted to understand this better. So we formed a male success subcommittee. We used the public health and social welfare model to put together a study on the male completion gap. We collaborated with Dr. Michael Kimmel of our Center for the Study of Men and Masculinities at the university. And we started by conducting an extensive literature review. We wanted to identify those factors that seem to make it difficult for men to be successful in higher education and beyond. Most of these factors, it turns out, fall under the umbrella of what we refer to as toxic masculinity. So what do I mean by that? What is toxic masculinity? It's an extreme, overly restrictive reliance on societal stereotypes and mores about what it means to be a man, about how men should act. And it often results in a pattern of inappropriate, self-harming, and often violent behaviors. It can lead to dominance. It can lead to the extreme self-reliance, the devaluation of women, and the suppression of emotions. Too many men in our society today live in this overly restrictive box because it's the only way that they believe that they can function. To date, we've interviewed over 100 male undergraduate students, some one-on-one, but the majority in focus groups spanning all racial and ethnicities, socioeconomic levels, sexual orientations, ages, and academic performance. Because men are still somewhat tight-lipped and find it difficult to talk about some of these things, discussions about charged issues like sexuality or money can be difficult. But fortunately, I'm a professional social worker by training, and my doctoral work with men who are violent with intimate partners has taught me how to create a space in which men can feel comfortable talking about difficult issues, opening up, showing vulnerability, and even some emotion. So we created these focus groups, and I'd invite students to come have dinner with the vice provost. And I can assure you that they came for the free food, not the vice provost. When they arrived, they really didn't know what we were going to talk about. But as soon as everybody was together in the room, I laid out for them very clearly what the data says, what the disparities are. I asked them if it surprised them, if it made sense to them. And then we started talking about the issues that we believe are those issues that are impacting male graduation rates. And I'd ask them, is this something that resonates with you, that you've experienced? Is it something that your friends experience? We talked about everything. Things ranging from sex, sexuality, alcohol and drugs, financial issues, how they dealt with frustrations. We talked about immersive video games. We talked about online pornography and compulsive masturbation. And we talked about the inability and unwillingness to ask for help. Most of them talked about themselves and how these issues led them to make some poor choices. Anytime a student would reject one of these issues and say, that doesn't make any sense, no one deals with that. There was always another student who would chime in and say, no, in fact, that's something I'm dealing with. That's something a friend of mine is dealing with. Virtually everything we raised, either one of these students themselves or their friends could relate to. Early on, one student explained to me, you know, if you have an organic chemistry midterm in the morning and you have a choice of studying tonight or pursuing a possible sexual encounter, it's like there wasn't a choice. I was really taken with that story, so I started to use it in subsequent focus groups. And virtually all of them, every one of the students, hands down acknowledged that they were going to pursue this potential sexual encounter. And I'd ask them, what about sort of delaying gratification a little bit for the long run? And they said they really couldn't do that because they really didn't know what the long run was. Now, we recognize that this is not the best choice for student success, but we also have to be aware of the fact that this is where our students are going. This is the code for male behavior today. And you know what? They knew it too. Many of the young men would hang back after the focus groups wanting to continue the discussion with me. Many others would email me, say, Dr. Robbins, can we set up an appointment? Can we talk? This is going on, that's going on, and I think it may be a problem. They're really looking for an outlet, a safe place to have a conversation, really to validate many of their better instincts that may contradict the sort of male code of behavior that they're dealing with. Just the other night, a young man came into my office and told me a story. He shared about how when he was growing up, his mother would become extremely angry if he showed any form of emotion. And how, in fact, in his house, to this day, he's never seen his father show any emotion. The eyes of these young men are telling a story of conflict, and we need to begin to notice it. Now, there are some people who really have some concerns about the work that we're doing. And they raise issues because, after all, they say, men are in positions of power. Men already are privileged. So why are we devoting resources to this? And I agree. In our society, men have privilege. They assume that all gender initiatives have to focus solely on women or members of the LGBTQA community. But in the case of student success, it's really male students that are struggling. So I say to them, why would we ignore a group of students that are lagging behind? Wouldn't it be great for them, for the students, for our society, if they were able to graduate and start to contribute to their communities? Wouldn't it be amazing if they were able to grow up and be full-hearted men that the next generation of boys would have to look up to be role models? Since we started our work not that long ago, the disparity has fallen from 17% to 14%. So we've got some directionality, but we've also got a lot of work to do. And I think we're up to that task. Stony Brook is really committed to eliminating gender inequality throughout the institution. And because of the work we're doing there, and because of the work we're doing with the Male Success Team, we've been recognized by UN Women as one of only 10 universities globally to be a part of its He for She campaign, engaging men and people of all genders to eliminate all gender inequality in all aspects of the work we do. We're really proud of that. I look forward to a world in which there are more full-hearted people of all genders who can succeed everything that they're capable of. And I look forward to connecting with all of you to make that possible. Thank you.